And we're starting off with AEW, and unless you've been living under a rock on Mars for the past few days, you'll know of CM Punk and Jack Perry's backstage throwdown at All In, which has captured the attention of the wrestling world. Perry and Punk have both reportedly been suspended, hence why neither was on this week's Dynamite, though Punk's potential involvement was always going to be unlikely. Many in AEW are extremely frustrated with the situation, believing it has overshadowed the success of All In, and Punk has not been in contact with Tony Khan at this time. Punk was informed of his second AEW suspension via his attorney, and while there's still a lot of questions, one thing we know is that neither Punk nor Perry will probably be back by All Out. There is hope that the ongoing investigation will have more information by then, and when Tony Khan spoke to the media about All Out, it was only a matter of time before the topic of Punk came up. Khan said that an investigation is going on and he will let it play out, but when asked if he and Punk have talked since London, the AEW president declined to comment on that. Punk and Khan are hardly buddy-buddy right now, with Wade Keller of PW Torch reporting that Punk confronted Tony Khan in front of others in the AEW locker room. In a heated and intense interaction, Punk used strong language to make it clear he was unhappy, and Fightful Select report that interviews are being conducted currently and statements are being collected to get the complete details about what happened. Piecing together the timeline of events shouldn't be too difficult, with the report stating that there is footage of the incident, as there are cameras installed in Wembley Stadium. That footage should hopefully clear up Punk's situation with Miro, who tweeted an image of a white taxi cab in what many believe was a shot at Punk's travel woes after AEW didn't arrange a car for him. After Punk's match with Samoa Joe, Miro asked him what happened with Jack Perry, which resulted in Punk losing his cool and daring the Bulgarian to fight him and take this outside. At least that's what the initial report about their interaction was, but now it seems that the actual context of what transpired between them was far different. Sean Ross Sapp reports that when Punk asked Miro if he wanted to fight, it was a joke, and Miro realized that and jokingly took Punk up on his offer for a brawl. That's when Punk, again as a joke, said, "Then let's take this outside," and Miro joked back, adding that, "How about we take this to the ring?" Punk may have been heated backstage, but reports of him being mad at Miro have been exaggerated, and in this developing story, it's important to establish what exactly happened in Wembley. CM Punk might be suspended from AEW after his skirmish with Jack Perry, but his blocking from AEW programming doesn't mean he was unable to appear for the Cauliflower Alley Club just days later. Punk was at a special event alongside wrestlers including Ron Simmons and JBL, Rey Mysterio, Mickie James, The Nasty Boys, and Coco Beware to receive the prestigious Iron Mike Mazzacuri Award. The award is a recognition for his outstanding achievements both inside and outside the wrestling ring, and after being first announced in May, Punk was happy to receive the award this week. In his 45-minute speech, Punk gave a not-so-subtle nod to how many don't see eye to eye with him, as he said, "When people tell me that they don't like me or that the internet is mad at me, I chuckle because Roddy Piper liked me, Dusty Rhodes liked me, and Harley Race liked me. And that means more than anything else in the world because these legends put their stamp on me before anyone else did. It gave me the confidence, and it gave me the ability to succeed." CM Punk can prove to be a very divisive figure, but that's something the real world champion is okay with, and don't expect the veteran to change who he is, no matter what problems it may bring. A lot has been said about the negative actions that took place backstage at All In, but it wasn't entirely bad behind the scenes with CM Punk at Wembley. Amid all the controversy about what happened with Perry, Punk would have a fantastic opening match with Samoa Joe, which saw Punk retain the Real World Championship. In a backstage photo after the match, Punk can be seen alongside Joe, referee Paul Turner, and AEW producer Jerry Lynn, who presumably helped put the match together. In the image, Punk seems to have cooled down considerably from his earlier interaction with Perry, and it's such a shame that his match with Joe has been overshadowed by what happened backstage. It often seems like those in the locker room simply don't know what side of Punk they're going to get, whether it's the professional who wants to help AEW grow, or the hothead who's ready to throw fists backstage, and this is hardly a new phenomenon. It's been slightly over 2 years since CM Punk made his debut for AEW, first appearing on the August 20th, 2021 episode of Rampage. Punk's presence has had an impact on several key indicators, including television ratings, pay-per-view purchases, merchandise sales, and ticket revenues, proving Punk is still a draw despite his controversies. Punk's backstage issues have been well documented over the past 2 years, including the Perry incident, his issues with the Elite, his recent post-Collision comment about Hangman Page, and blocking talent from Collision, just to name a few. To date, CM Punk has competed in 33 matches in AEW and is a 2-time AEW World Champion and 1-time Real World Champion, but there is an unfortunate statistic to his name. A Reddit user, Grimtreeper, pointed out on the Squared Circle subreddit, Punk has actually been an active part of AEW's roster for 385 out of his 739 days, which is slightly just over 50%. Those 385 days don't include any period of time when Punk was injured or suspended, and it's shocking that the biggest name in AEW has been missing for almost half his entire run. Even when Punk isn't on screen, fans are often talking about him, but not always for the right reasons, as we saw with this week's Dynamite. Even in Punk's native Chicago, many fans have grown tired of the straight-edge star, with one sign during Dynamite reading, "CM Punk, no flips, just fits." Another sign used Punk's cult of personality theme to question where Jack Perry was, as there's no shortage of people in Punk's hometown who have taken a critical view of his latest backstage drama. It has been reported that Punk threatened to quit AEW Backstage at Wembley, and many fans wouldn't be opposed to this, as some have used the hashtag #FireCMPunk to make it clear what they think Tony Khan should do. But what's your take on CM Punk? Is the twice suspended Real World Champion too much hassle to be worth it? Make sure you let us know what you think in the comments. At AEW All In, Tony Khan's promotion set a record for the highest paid attendance in wrestling history, with over 81,000 people filling Wembley Stadium. Unlike WWE's often inflated numbers, this 81,000 is legitimate and doesn't include comped tickets or staff, but AEW hasn't been able to keep up this historic momentum. This week, AEW Dynamite came to Chicago, a wrestling town if ever there was one, and with the controversy at All In, you'd think the show would be packed with interested fans. In a photo taken during Dynamite, dozens of empty seats could be seen, despite this being the Fallout Dynamite for All In and the Go Home episode before All Out. Before the show went on the air, WrestleTix reported that with 4,439 seats available, Dynamite couldn't sell 919 seats, meaning over a quarter of the stands had no fans at all. Tickets for this week's Dynamite were reportedly going for as low as $4, but that offer still wasn't enough to sell out the show, and this is a photo Tony Khan definitely doesn't want you to see. This Friday, John Cena will make his return to WWE in what will kick off Cena's longest return to WWE that we've seen in years. The 16-time WWE World Champion will be appearing every Friday night all the way through to the end of October, but John may have another major WWE event in the works. WrestleVotes took to Twitter this week to reveal that there have been rumblings about Cena being at this weekend's Payback event, where he would be serving as the guest host of the show. As previously reported by Ringside News, Cena had been discussing a WWE return since the SAG-AFTRA strike begun, as the non-union affiliated WWE is somewhere Cena can still appear. Their sources added that fans shouldn't expect The Rock back on WWE TV during the strike, as it's just not in the cards right now, even with several major productions having to postpone filming. Nevertheless, having Cena back for the next 2 months is a major get for WWE, and we'll have to see what he gets up to if John is indeed the guest host of this weekend's Payback event. Back to AEW, and fans who attended this week's Dynamite, as well as those watching at home, will have noticed something odd about this week's show, and the stars who did and didn't appear. Despite this being a very significant episode, many top names were nowhere to be seen, and we now know more about what kept some names from the ring. We've previously reported that illnesses were just part of the reason some names didn't appear, and on PW Insider, they've confirmed that Saraya and Swerve Strickland were under the weather. This illness led to both being pulled from Dynamite, and hopefully both can recover quickly, with Saraya booked to be in action on this Saturday's Collision. While some had speculated that Saraya wasn't at Dynamite because she stayed in London to spend time with her family, sources close to the situation have confirmed that this is not the case at all. The report added that people who live in Florida, including Kenny Omega, couldn't get out of the state due to Hurricane Natalya, and that Dynamite was thrown together this week. Omega couldn't make it to Chicago in time for Dynamite, but he will be at All Out, where he'll be facing Konosuke Takeshita, who will have Don Callis in his corner. As for Saraya and Swerve, there's no confirmation what they were ill with or if they had the same illness, but hopefully things will be back to normal very soon. It was during the All In media scrum that Tony Khan announced Wrestle Dream, a show which will celebrate the life and career of the legendary Antonio Inoki. Inoki died on October 1st last year, and Wrestle Dream will take place on the anniversary of his passing, and Khan has been enthusiastic about the potential participation of well-known New Japan stars. Khan spoke at length about getting both male and female New Japan stars on the show, but one name fans shouldn't expect to see at Wrestle Dream is Mercedes Moné. Speaking about Moné's potential involvement and recalling the positive impact she had at All In, Khan said that Moné is unable to compete due to specific circumstances, as he alluded to her injury. Nonetheless, he emphasized his interest in her and reaffirmed that once she receives clearance, she will be a significant target for inclusion in their future events. Many expected Moné to compete at this year's Forbidden Door before a leg injury derailed all plans for her, including plans for her to become the first New Japan Strong Women's Champion. Moné remains seated at All In as she is still wearing a protective boot over her leg, but once she's fully healed, expect Tony Khan to make his play to bring the self-professed CEO of New Japan to AEW. With Wrestlemania 40 set to take place in Philadelphia next year, there's been a lot of speculation that the week's festivities could have something of an ECW feel to them. An ECW experience has already been announced for WrestleMania week in what will be a hit with fans, but one veteran of the Extreme promotion may not be allowed to compete that weekend. Speaking on his One of a Kind podcast, Rob Van Dam spoke about wanting to possibly do something with WWE around WrestleMania 40, but is concerned that this may no longer be possible. He said, "Maybe I'd show you if I was doing a WWE tour WrestleMania weekend, but I have good reason to believe that might be canceled because of a recent appearance I might have done, with permission, for a different company." RVD didn't name that company, but it's clear he was alluding to his recent appearance for AEW, which saw the Hall of Famer challenge then FTW champion Jack Perry in a losing effort. RVD was said to have been very well received by AEW management and seemed to enjoy his time with the company, but his All Elite tenure, however brief, may have cost him an opportunity to compete during WrestleMania week next year. At Payback, Austin Theory will challenge US champion Rey Mysterio, and with his colorful masks and sense of right, Mysterio has often been considered WWE's very own superhero. Like so many characters from the world of comics, Mysterio often finds the way to overcome seemingly impossible odds, but while he may be WWE's superhero, Theory has a tie to comics of his own. Recently, a clip has been making the rounds on social media that showed Austin Theory as an extra in the 2017 film Spider-Man: Homecoming, a cameo role that nobody else had picked up on before. It seems Theory's MCU counterpart is just as villainous as the WWE superstar, as his scene sees the young superstar in prison alongside the film's main antagonist, the Vulture, as played by Michael Keaton. On social media, fans were blown away by learning of Theory's cameo, and some joked that they'd want to see Austin Theory, the superstar, take on everybody's friendly neighborhood superhero. As to whether there are more film roles in Theory's future, only time will tell, but for now, the cocky heel has focused on becoming a 3-time US champion this weekend at Payback. Payback will also see LA Knight in action as the ever-popular superstar is preparing to lock horns with The Miz. During this week's Raw, the A-lister impersonated Knight in a segment considered a massive hit, but turnabout may be fair play on tonight's episode of SmackDown. While not confirmed, fans shouldn't be surprised if we see Knight impersonate Miz during the show, given that the Slim Jim Battle Royal winner has impersonated an opponent in the past. It was during an episode of SmackDown in January that Knight impersonated Bray Wyatt ahead of their match at the Royal Rumble event, and Knight may do the same this Friday. Speaking about The Miz's impersonation of him this week, Knight told Caleb's Online that he understands why the A-lister did what he did, saying it stems from pure jealousy. He said, "He's jealous of me, and you know why? Because he's always wanted to be me. I'm not saying he knew who LA Knight was years ago, but what I mean is that he wanted the level of success that I've come across. He wanted the adulation that I've come across. He wanted the reaction that I've gotten, people chanting his name, quoting him. Instead, the best reaction he's ever gotten his entire career was walking out as me a couple of nights ago on Raw." Knight and Miz have spoken against each other multiple times and have caused distractions in each other's matches. And who do you expect to come out on top this Sunday at Payback? Later this month, WWE will host its first event in India since 2017, and the card for the Superstar Spectacle is slowly coming together. At this time, WWE has not confirmed any women's matches for the show yet, but that hasn't stopped one superstar from speaking at length about her upcoming opportunity. In an interview with NXT's Kavinder twins on their Twin Talk podcast, Natalya spoke about wrestling Rhea Ripley in India, which will presumably be for Ripley's Women's World Championship. Natalya, who was recently taken off TV, previously challenged Ripley at Night of Champions, but was absolutely demolished by the Judgment Day star in Saudi Arabia. Given that Natalya accidentally spoiled WWE's plans, we doubt they'll be giving her a win over Ripley in India, but expect these two to collide once more at the historic Superstar Spectacle. Last month, Edge competed in the final match of his current WWE contract, and what some have speculated could be the Rated R Superstar's final match ever. For the match in his native Toronto, Edge wore a gorgeous white and blue attire, but he is now parting ways with this attire for a very good cause. As Sami Zayn tweeted, Edge has donated this attire to be auctioned off, with the proceeds raised going to the Sammy for Syria charity to help fund mobile clinics in war-torn areas. This is an incredibly generous act by Edge, and with the Hall of Famer being such a beloved legend, we expect his tights and jacket to go for a high price at auction, helping those most in need. For the past month, wildfires have been devastating Hawaii, with much of the destruction happening in the island of Maui, killing dozens of people and leaving many more without their homes. Now, The Rock has stepped up to try to help those people out, as the Great One, alongside Oprah, has started a $10 million relief fund for victims of the Maui wildfires. This is the latest massive act of generosity from The Rock, while Oprah is no slouch herself when it comes to helping out, and this $10 million will do a lot of good for those in the worst of circumstances. When you're competing in the ring, an accident can happen at any time, and this week, Xavier Woods learned that the hard way when he was struck in the head by a commentary chair. This situation wasn't a planned part of the show, and Drew McIntyre would even break character to check on the New Day star, and we have an update on the condition of Xavier Woods. On social media, WWE reported that Woods suffered a cervical strain after being hit in the head by the chair thrown by Drew, and his status is considered week to week. The report added that Woods will not compete on the upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw, which will also be his birthday, and Woods himself has confirmed the doctor's advice. While Woods is disappointed to not get to wrestle on his birthday, he has assured fans that he would be back in action the following week, but that will depend on what the medical team say. On Twitter, Woods thanked fans for their kind messages of support, and McIntyre himself would use a South Park gif to make it clear he's sorry about this unfortunate incident. Some have predicted that this situation could lead to the first McIntyre heel turn we've seen in years, but nobody at WWE has yet to confirm that's the plan, and we're wishing Woods a speedy recovery. More from All In, and despite the controversy backstage, the show was a huge success story for AEW, with 81,035 fans filling the packed Wembley Stadium. This is a staggering number that AEW hopes to eclipse with next year's All In event, but how did AEW's first show in the UK stack up next to Wrestlemania? Speaking during the media call ahead of All Out, Khan proudly acknowledged that All In sold more tickets than any Wrestlemania in history, including this year's event in Los Angeles. This is true, though it's worth noting that WWE has been historically more focused on making as large a profit with higher ticket prices rather than amassing huge crowds. WWE tends to inflate their attendance numbers when presenting them publicly, making the argument a little less clear-cut than it would be otherwise, but nothing can take away from All In's success. On the media call, Khan also spoke about the late Terry Funk and his legacy, acknowledging Funk as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Khan never had the chance to meet Funk, but mentioned that Tommy Dreamer attempted to arrange a meeting that unfortunately never materialized, and said that the tributes to Funk are akin to how the basketball world would react to the death of Michael Jordan. Khan's kind words didn't stop there, as he added that Funk captured an exceptional greatness above his peers, and said that today's wrestlers will ensure that Funk's name and legacy remain relevant. Later on, Khan was asked about ROH's next pay-per-view and the potential integration of AEW talent, and the president of both companies praised each one's robust lineup of champions. Khan had special praise for ROH Women's World Champion Athena before confirming plans for a Final Battle pay-per-view at the end of this year. Khan would also commend the efforts of Billy Starks and would speak about Claudio Castagnoli's accomplishments, as well as the impressively lengthy ROH World TV title reign of Samoa Joe. ROH and AEW have seen plenty of crossover already, and more could be coming soon enough, but for now, Tony Khan will continue to work to make both companies as successful as they can be. Last month, the wrestling world lost Wyndham Rotunda at the tragically young age of 36, less than a year after his return to WWE programming. After his controversial release in July 2021, Rotunda didn't compete, but at one point it did look like he could have been doing something with Freddie Prinze Jr. During his Wrestling with Freddie podcast, Prinze spoke about the creative young man and said that he had planned for Rotunda to be a part of his wrestling promotion prior to Wyatt's WWE return. Prinze added that there was a movie that he'd been considering which would have been perfect for Rotunda, and that the WWE World Champion loved the idea of playing a carny. The former WWE writer even went on to say that Wyatt was the last true attraction wrestler, given that The Undertaker is retired, as Wyndham Rotunda left an indelible mark on the wrestling business.